Welcome to the Trailhead from UltraSignup, where big adventures begin. Trail running is so much more than just a sport. It's a community, a culture, a way of seeing the world. On this show, we're not dissecting splits or debating shoe specs. We're here to get to the heart of it all, the people, the places, and the stories that speak to the soul of the sport. Join me, Zoe Rome, and my co-host, Brendan Leonard, as we'll bring you conversations with the everyday athletes, local legends, quirky characters, and creative minds who make trail running what it is. Messy, joyful, gritty, and deeply human. Because it's not just about chasing finish lines. It's about the friendships forged on long climbs, the lessons learned in the pain cave, and the weird, wild moments that remind us why this sport is about so much more than the miles. This week on the Trailhead, we are welcoming someone who might be just as at home dodging potholes as dodging tree roots. He's the self-proclaimed non-elite YouTube runner who's racked up millions of views filming everything from 5Ks to marathons with a camera in one hand and a smile on his face. Today, we are talking to him about making the leap from roads to trails and everywhere in between, and what it's like to document your running life in real time, and why he thinks running should be more fun and maybe even a little less serious. We are so pumped to welcome Kofuzi to the Trailhead.
Thanks so much for having me. That was a wonderful intro. I really enjoyed that. It makes me sound much more interesting than I think maybe I am. So hopefully I can live up to that for today.
Well, first, I would just love to hear a little bit about what got you into turning the camera on and turning it on yourself. Where did this desire to document and communicate come from?
I think two things were happening kind of at the same time for me. One is that I've always kind of needed a little something that wasn't work. That was just a little bit of a release valve, an outlet, whether it was writing or photography or video eventually. Kind of as technology became more accessible to like a normal person, the kind of more complicated my outlets became, and so first it was literally pen to paper, because I'm a little bit older and that's how I started with my creative endeavors. And now it's, making videos for social media. But also at the time when like digital cameras and digital video cameras were becoming more accessible and basically cheaper, I was consuming a lot of content like this. So a lot of daily vlogging was huge at the time, and I was watching a lot of that. And so I was like, well, maybe I'll do some of that. So I'll try doing that. And that's really how it started. I didn't start out like I bought a camera, now let's take it for a run. I was already turning the camera on for a lot of stuff in my life. And then running kind of came into it a little bit later.
Are you still doing as part of your process, are you still doing a little bit of writing? Like one of my favorite follows on social media, just for the jokes and pithy, funny things that you put on like threads. But are you doing it as like part of your video scripts or anything like that?
Yeah, I don't really do any writing anymore, which I always kind of, in the rare moments when I can sit down and think about stuff, it always strikes me as like, I should probably do more of that. I think I get a lot of that out of my system these days when one, like kind of the main areas of videos that I'm making now is kind of travel and running videos. And so in those, it's really voiceover heavy the way I'm doing it. And so I'm getting a lot of my kind of like itch to write out in that way. The scripts for like when I do a shoe review, I'm not flexing a lot of creative muscles in that kind of content. I enjoy it. The creativity for me in that part is like how I'm filming the shoe, how I'm filming the run. The writing part, that is not as fulfilling in a shoe review, but I'm getting a lot of that from travel writing.
Do you have an idea of like why does your YouTube channel not suck? Like, why do people like it? Are you not surprised? Or are you just like, wow, I can't believe, or was there a moment when you were like kind of surprised?
Yeah. And how much of it is the shoe wall?
Yeah.
Because I'm just like, I feel like a moth to a flame, just like, oh, pretty colors.
Well, here's the thing about the shoe wall. I very intentionally have a different set for my shoe reviews. It's just a big gray piece of paper. And the idea is that like, I want people to focus on the one shoe that I'm talking about now, rather than all these. This is like my podcast and live stream set. And so like, that's when it's like, oh, I might need to pull a shoe off the wall, or just, people are like listening to me read chats, and so it's like, I mean, I might need some visual help to spice things up. So that's where a lot of the shoe wall comes in. I'm surprised all the time that that the YouTube channel doesn't suck. Like I have said many times that like I'm like the hero that nobody asked for. I'm just here. I don't know why. And I always, a lot of times I just feel like I'm out of place. I just think that I happen to have been making videos for a long time at this point. And so people are like, oh yeah, he's been here for a while, so he must know kind of what he's doing. And so they'll watch, and the algorithm is like, this guy's not so bad. And so I keep getting fed to people. And so I feel like there's a lot of like kind of early mover. I wasn't the first for sure. But I have a lot of like early mover advantage, I think, on it. I mean, I do put a lot of work into it. I think about it a lot. So I'm not saying it's completely accidental that I'm where I am, but I think a lot of it was I've just been plugging away for a really long time. And in a time, I think especially in like the running social media space, where people are sometimes a little bit hesitant to like embrace a lot of new faces because there's been so many new faces. Like the face that's been around for a while, oh, that guy, you know, I feel like is an advantage to me. So I'm leaning into my strengths, and that's one of it. Is that I've just been here.
Yeah, Brendan
So
and
if
I
you
have
had an
sets with books behind us so that people think we're smart. So similar thing. We're just waiting for the traction and the algorithmic approval. It hasn't yet blessed us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually ordered these. This is like a kit you can get.
Yeah.
So I just put them up there. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's called Millennial Woman by IKEA.
So if you had imposter syndrome, let's say 9 out of 10 when you started, has it lowered at all now, or is it even worse?
It's in some ways it's much better. Just because a lot of times I'll go places and I'll know everyone in the room. So I'm like, oh, these are all people that I've worked with before. And whether it's other of my colleagues that are in media as well, whether it's legacy or new media or whatever words we're using for those, you know, it's good to see familiar faces. And then on the either the brand or the event side, seeing familiar faces, it's like, okay, they've invited me once and then they invited me again. So I feel like that's kind of enough validation that satisfies, you know, that insecurity in me of the kind of the imposter syndrome. But on a lot of levels, you know, I still have a lot of it. And it's just because like, you know, good work leads to more good work. And so if I do a good job here, then I get invited to something else where it's a different room of people where I'm the new guy and everyone else, you know, went to journalism school and I'm just a dude making videos in his basement. And so it's just like, it feels a little bit, I'm like, I'm sensing a little bit of hostility and I've not been here before and I'm not sure I know how to do this. But I'm the dude with the cameras. I'm here. So I feel a lot of that.
As the person who went to J school, I'm always like, man, I wish I had just learned how to do some YouTube stuff. Because like the last time someone was like, please make sure that you cite this in Chicago style and then fact check it 3 ways. It's been a second.
I did too. And I like when I started, I went to journalism school too. And I realized that people would like work for the New York Times and they got a degree in like anthropology or sociology or something. I was like, I didn't know you could do that. I thought you had to go to school. And of course now it's not at all.
No, yeah. J school, not a thing. Do you remember what your first video was? Like, could you sort of take us back to that first time that you turned the camera on and you were like, I kind of want to bring people along for the ride here?
Not to interrupt, but have you deleted that video?
Yeah.
So like all the earliest videos that I made were just like family vlogs, you know, I mean, like that's a fancy word for home videos, you know, but they were on Facebook. And so they were in the vein of daily vlogs. And so those were some of the early ones. But it also like kind of like revolves around, like I bought like a used GoPro Hero 3. They're on number 13 now. And so it's been a while, but that was like the first one. I was like, all right, I'm buying this action camera and I'm going to take this thing that people use to jump off of cliffs and to go surfing. And I'm going to use it to show like everyday kind of boring life and try to make it seem interesting visually. And so that was kind of the start. And that was like the first push that I had in terms of I want to make stuff. And I think that is the first video that I think I remember ever posting on something was just I was inviting friends over to my roof deck and the building we lived in for the Chicago Air and Water Show. And I just wanted to be like, guys, it's not the best viewing location, but it is on the roof and we do have a lake view from the roof and you can see some of the airplanes. here's what you're going to see. And so I just took a video of the roof and I put that, I don't know if it's on YouTube or I don't know where I put that. It might be still on YouTube. And that was it. Cause there was no other way of sending a video of like, 50 megabytes at the time. So I just put it on YouTube. I think that was the first video I ever posted.
You talked about this in other interviews, but you went a long time without having run a sub 3 hour marathon and finally did it. And you talked a little bit about how that was not completely necessary for your existence, but like kind of validating in a way. Could you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah. And so I think for me, I didn't start out running thinking like, oh, I didn't even start thinking I was going to BQ. That seemed like unattainably fast for me. And then given my age, like a sub 3 hour marathon is much under a BQ for me. But I suddenly found myself kind of near it. And I was like, all right, well, maybe I'll try this thing. It's a big round number. It feels like the next right step. And at the time, I was getting some traction with the shoe reviews, but like there was a very strong undercurrent of like, why are we listening to this guy? He's not even that fast, And so I felt like as part of the imposter syndrome, I was like, well, like I'm not a coach. I competed for 1 year in Division III. I'm not that fast. I'm not that camera friendly. Like, I don't even have that many shoes. Like the brands aren't even really talking to me. This was before, like, cause like now there's like someone whose job it is to interact with social media people. Before then you were like, you were emailing someone whose job was to like handle like print campaigns. Like they were like, you want what? It was very different. And so I felt like I need some way to validate that like I know what I'm talking about or I'm worth listening to. And like I just wanted to see how fast I can go. It was exciting. Carbon plated shoes were pretty a new thing, so it was all of like very like a lot of things kind of all wrapped into the same like kind of ball of energy that was being funneled at trying to run under 3 hours for the marathon.
Oh, how the times have changed.
And like 3 minutes faster now, people are like, okay, I'll listen to his shoe reviews. Okay,
yeah.
fine.
Yeah, I just, I was just listening to a lot more negative feedback then. I think over the years, I've kind of curated the community in terms of the comments and like kind of the people who I've attracted who are frequently in the comments that like, it's just not the kind of thing that we do here, And so, and other things like, I talk about shoes in terms of effort and not paces, because I think that's actually more relevant for when a shoe might be useful and when it's not as useful. And so like there's little things that I've done to kind of curate a better environment. But like early on, I was just like, I'm just happy people are paying attention, even if they're yelling at me. That's great. Now, how do I get them to stop yelling at me? I guess run faster is one way, which I also wanted to do, but like that to say that like I wanted to kind of quiet some of the naysayers was definitely a part. As negative as a motivation as it was a motivation for sure.
So like, sort of leaning into the non-elite piece of this and like not to split hairs, but I'm like, qualifying for Boston, that's pretty dang fast. But I'm curious what it means to you to be non-elite. Like, why is that a label that you find so much resonance in, and that clearly a non-zero number of other people on this call do too? Brendan's wearing a non-elite hat. I'm audio journalism, gotta,
Yeah.
This is my favorite. I would. This is like the hat I wish I had thought of. Like
yeah, I mean,
I put this on.
One, I think the hat is great. Like the material of the hat, they made some great choices. But I also love the concept of non-elite, because to me it was like I was running hard. I cared a lot about my running. I was trying to learn as much as possible about running, and so like I felt like there really wasn't something that spoke to me as someone that cared a lot about running, but someone who knew I'm never going to be, at the time I was like, I'm never going to be in that A corral. I'm not going to be wave one, corral one, but I still care. And I feel like that my, goals, the things that I care about as a runner should matter too, even if I'm not as fast as all those guys up there. And so that's where kind of the non-elite thing started from. The first non-elite product I ever made, oh boy, it was gross. But the idea was that like we were proud of the fact that we weren't front of the pack, but we were going to try hard. And it was a giant, like as orange, as high vis of an orange shirt as I could find, and non-elite as big as it would fit to kind of just be like, look, we don't belong up there. We don't want to be up there. This is our spot here, and we're happy about it, and like, this is where my people are. This is where we are. And so like, that was I meant it as a throwaway layer, like, so you wore it into the corral. And so the idea would be there would be a bunch of these orange shirts. There never was. It was just me. But that was the first non-elite shirt. And that's kind of how the idea started, as a way of just being like, you guys do your thing. We're doing ours here, but just don't make fun of us because we're trying hard, and this is as fast as we can go. And, we're doing our thing.
Who's the fastest person to wear a non-elite hat? Do you have an idea of that? They embracing it and like,
yeah. I think one time, I gave a bunch of hats out to European media guys when I was in, for Road to Records a couple of years ago. And I think some of those guys are like 245 guys, so I feel like that's real. I'm like, I'm not sure if you could wear that hat anymore, but the whole thing about non-elite is like, you could be, it's self-defined, we're not kicking anyone out. So, as long as you're part of the ethos, you can wear it. And so, so there have been some fast dudes to wear the hat, a lot of fast women that have worn the hat as well. And I'm very proud of that. And we welcome them, as well as part of the non-elite community.
And the irony of like kicking people out of the non-elite.
Yeah.
Like, oh God, those non-elite people, they're so elitist.
Yeah.
Apparently I was too fast.
The elitist non-elites.
Yeah.
So you've also been dabbling a bit in trail running, even though you're probably most known for a lot of your content and storytelling around road running. I'm curious what made you want to take to the trails.
I mean, there's a couple of reasons. Like, trail running, it's fun. I like it. I'm not very good at it. I live in the Midwest for a long time. The most of the years of this YouTube channel, I lived by Lake Michigan. So like, 0 feet above sea level, the average run would be like 15 feet of gain, over 6 to 10 miles. So it's like not a lot of trail opportunities these days. We live out in the far suburbs, so I have a lot more trails available to me, and I enjoy running out there. But so one, trail running is fun. It's a different kind of mentality, at least the way that I do trail running, my approach to it. It's not so time oriented. It's not so worried about heart rate and is this hard workout thresholdy or more VO2 maxy, and like, how do I adjust it to stay within the correct range? It's more like, today I'm going to go out and spend 2 hours running around a whole bunch of loops around this park until I run out of time, and I might need to stop and eat some snacks along the way. I might want to stop and take a picture, those kinds of things. And so like the vibe is just very different. And it's just, especially in the summertime, it's nice to get into some tree cover. And so, there's just ways that I find it really enjoying. I don't get to get out into trails as much as I would like to when I'm like, training for a road race, especially if it's like a PR attempt. But I do love running out in the trails.
In the journey of, speaking of that, in the journey of like guy who just likes to run to guy who's wants to create a few YouTube videos to like, now this is your full-time income. Like, has that affected how you plan your year as far as running goes? Like, do you think, oh, well, this would make a good piece for YouTube, or people have been asking about this, or?
Yeah, it definitely does. Because like, there's certain events that I go to. I'm trying to keep it mixed in terms of storytelling. I don't want to tell the same story about the same races every year. But I guess kind of like, a lot of the marathoners end up going to the same races year over year because it's like they do well there, they have fans there. Financially, it makes sense for them to go there. So there's a couple of races a year that, I kind of always have on my calendar. And that makes, planning for some other things a little bit difficult. Like, I've been trying to run Black Canyon for like 4 or 5 years. It's a bad time of year for me. And so like every year I'm like, next year though, I'm definitely signing up. And then I'm like, I think I'm going to run Tokyo Marathon that year. Or I'm like, I'm running LA Marathon that year. And so like, there's always a spring marathon, or like that was the year I ran Boston. So there was like a spring marathon that made running Black Canyon probably like a really bad idea. But I love that part of the country. I love running in that kind of terrain. And so it's been something I've been eyeing for a long time. It's just never worked out. So there's definitely ways where like, with the way this job works, some things that I would do if I was just, I guess, a regular person, I don't get to do, and same thing with like, when I'm thinking about like the shoes that I want to like review, road shoes just perform a lot better on YouTube than trail shoes do. Especially from someone that's not trail native, like I'm not trail native. And so like, for me, sometimes it's like, if I crank out a couple of more like, somewhat interesting road shoe reviews, that's a lot easier and faster for me to do than something that, even if I had like a really exciting trail shoe that I wanted to review. One, because, I have trails available to me, but they're not the kind of trails that people really want to see in a trail review, and so I'm like, all right, so then I have to think like, okay, when can I get out to somewhere that's more interesting? And so it makes it harder for me, like the business aspect of it in terms of views and how much would it cost me to be able to review different shoes definitely comes into effect a little bit.
Yeah, if trail running YouTube were to be believed, we're all out crushing alpine single track each and every day, just bluebird skies, like always in the shadow of Mont Blanc, and then ending each and every run with an espresso.
I mean,
that's what
nice,
it's like
though.
over here. It would be nice. Yeah. I'm curious, like, what's something that people don't see behind the scenes of making running content that you maybe wish they did? Because I'm sure there's so much that goes into it.
Yeah, I think a lot of it is that it's not just it. I mean, there's a lot of prep that goes into it. And so I think the part that people see is like at races, you'll see someone like randomly, whip out a phone and then they're pointing it at themselves. And then all of a sudden it's like, they're narrating something in the middle of a race, which I can understand seem very jarring to some people. But it seems like, oh, it's so impromptu. You just pulled your phone out of your pocket. But there's a lot more planning and kind of like structure that goes into it. And just like, I'm doing a big survey of a brand's shoe for a video that hopefully will come out in the next couple of weeks. And, just having to process like, 9 different, I'm looking at the boxes over there. There's like 9 different pairs of shoes that are there. I've got to kind of like get product shots ready for them. And then I got to put miles in all of them. And then I got to put thoughts down to them and video, film myself doing it. So there's just a lot. It takes a lot to put it all together. Some people have a style of content that is just feels more effervescent. Mine is a little bit more analytical, and I'm like, no, I have to like, set these shoes up in the studio, and that takes as much time as filming the talking head part. So that's just my process. It just takes more time than you think. And I think the takeaway that I'd like people to have is that like people that review shoes tend to think a lot more about the shoes than you think that they're thinking about the shoes. Like we spend a lot of time thinking about shoes. It gets really boring. When we get together, it's super boring because we're just like chatting about the shoes that we like. And for most people, I mean, my wife could tell you like it's super boring to listen to a bunch of dudes.
Yeah. I used to professionally review shoes, not by choice, but we had to. And it really made me appreciate what an art it was, because I felt like all my reviews were like, it's definitely a shoe. There are lugs. I did run in trail on it.
Yeah.
It takes a whole nother level of like perception and trying to almost like audience empathy. You have to like understand what other people are looking for in a piece of equipment and then triangulate that in a way that they will understand. Whereas I feel like I was always just like, I hate this and I don't know why, or like, I like this and I have no idea why.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to go so far as to say that it's an art, but I do think that there are some people that are just more inclined to be better at it than others. Like, I think of it as like being someone that has a really sensitive palate, or like a sommelier that understands flavors and aromas and how they interact. For me, if I open a bottle of wine, I'm like, I could never tell you in a blind taste test which was a $7 bottle, a $70 bottle, or like a $700. I would never be able to tell you that, because my I don't feel those things, whatever it is that people that price wine feel. But for shoes, for whatever reason, that resonates with me. And like, I notice things. And I have been able to develop a vocabulary to help convey the feelings of this is good, I like it, and try to dissect, well, why, And so I think that's not the art so much. I mean, there's a little bit of an art to it, but I think that it's more of like just a skill set, and just like weird kind of like genetic gifts, I guess, the other way I think to think of it is I describe myself as I'm exceptionally average. Right. So I have like a reference shoe size, medium size in all apparel. Everything kind of like fits me. And so like when things don't feel right to me, that's how I can tell things are off, because I am like I'm like the mannequin, you know? And so like
born sample size.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so like my averageness finally has an advantage in my life. And so like if it doesn't work for me, there's something wrong with it. It's kind of like how I look at a lot of things.
I am the middle of the data set. Yeah, that's great.
Exactly.
Do you have an easier time explaining your job nowadays than you did your previous job before you were a YouTuber? I remember you had a post about going to your daughter's school and talking about your career. This is maybe a year ago, or maybe less than that. But I'm like, oh, that's super cool. Is it easier now or is it harder?
Yeah, it's easy now, especially with kids, because I'm just like, I'm a YouTuber, right? And so like that's really easy. The kids understand what that is. But I have to say, like, I'm not. I review shoes, running shoes. So it's like, that's probably why you haven't seen it, you know, and probably why your parents haven't seen it either. So I have to like warn them that I'm like, I'm not like some fancy, like, you know, blogger, or, and I'm not like a Mr. Beast style, like challenge type of YouTube person. It's a different kind of YouTube, but they get it. They understand that there's kinds of different YouTube. When I talk to adults is when it gets a little bit harder, because then it's like, you know, like sometimes I say I review shoes as my job. Other times I say like sometimes I'll just say I'm a YouTuber, or I'll be like I'm an influencer. I specialize in running shoes. You know, so those are like the shorthands that I use to kind of explain my job to other people, which was a lot easier than my other job, which I was a consultant. And so people were like,
that sounds even faker.
Yeah, and it's even more vague. And so like, you know, I always just would kind of leave it like I'm a consultant in the legal industry. It's kind of like being a lawyer. I did go to law school, so it gets complicated, right? So like, there's lots of weird things to it
consultant for the internet.
Yeah. I'm sure that will go over well at the next school function.
Yeah, I mean that can go. That's an entirely different rabbit hole there.
Yeah,
really. I don't know if like.
Yeah. And so so it's like it is easier now because people kind of understand what influencer means. And I know like a lot of people carry a very negative connotation to that term, but I'm just like, it's a pretty easy term. People will understand and they can ask more. It's kind of like consultant. If people really care, they can ask a follow-up, or they could just be like, okay, it's, you know, it's not like doctor, lawyer, accountant, engineer, consultant. Okay. That as curious as I'm going to be, you know, influencer might be as curious as people are, but you know, it explains why I'm always like, looks like I just woke up whenever I come to the school function, or I'm in like, you know, like in running clothes, is because this is my work attire.
Because I've been working, you guys, sweating it out in the content mines, advising people on foot stuff in a very normal way, not in the way that you think.
Yeah.
So you've run, you know, have you run all of the world major marathons at this point?
Yes, asterisk, because there's Sydney. This is the first one.
Right.
I mean, it was kind of last year was kind of their first one, but this is the first one. So, but I will run that one this year.
And you've run some trail races. I'm curious, like, what do you think that the road running scene could learn from the trail scene? And what do you think trail runners should learn from road runners? Besides, again, the fact, like, please give us technology in our shoes. I want fast shoes.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of trail races are already doing it right. They're a lot of fun. And so I guess that's the thing that I would try to bring more of to the road world. There's still, I mean, even now when it seems like after every big road race, your social media feed is probably full of people who fun run the race rather than people that tried to run it hard, you know. But even then, I still think that like there's a lot of pushback against that, and that people feel like, well, you got a bib on, you know, anything less than your everything is sacrificing the gift kind of runner Goggins mentality. I feel like road running can learn a lot from trail in the sense that like you could just go out there, give a good hard effort, have fun, enjoy the race, the location, the people, the effort, and enjoy the day. You know, it goes back to that joke of like, did you have fun? I don't know. My watch doesn't say, you know. I feel like there's a lot of truth to that in road running, where it definitely takes itself too seriously too often. I think that's one thing that road running can learn. I think from the going for the other way from the trail, from the road to the trail, what trail can learn. Yeah, I don't have a lot of notes for that. I mean, I think that I wish that there were a better way. I know there's limitations on it, but I wish there were a better way that road races could accommodate more people. I think that the races are, I mean, they're small, and that's their charm in a lot of, in so many ways. That you're not going to a 50,000 person event. But I also feel like, you know, the trails has a similar problem as roads do, where some of the most highly sought after races are extremely hard to get into. And I will say that trail is doing probably a better job at addressing that kind of surplus in demand than roads are. But like, I think sometimes there's too much pressure to kind of keep trail the way it was, that I feel like makes it hard to kind of embrace the sport if you're not someone that lives at the foothills of a mountain.
Speaking of that, the last ultra marathon you ran on your UltraSignup was the Tiger Claw, which is not a chill race. Like, you could have done some way flatter stuff near your house in the Midwest, but you chose to go. I think Tiger Claw is 8,500 feet of elevation gain in 31 miles. Why did you pick that one?
Yeah, that was a surprise. So one of the first people I was watching on YouTube was Ethan Newberry. And so I was watching his shoe reviews, and I found myself watching so many trail shoe reviews. And I'm like, I don't even run trails. I run on the lakefront path. Like, that's all I ever run. Like, I don't know why I'm watching these, but I love this. And I was getting super into it. And I was like, well, I wish there were more videos about road shoes, because that's what I use. And so that was kind of like, well, I guess if I'm not seeing it, I'll start making some. So he was a really big inspiration to me from the beginning. And he's been supportive of me from the beginning as well. At least as soon as I got big enough for me to get into his algorithm, you know, like, you know, as soon as he became aware of me, I feel like he was very supportive. And so I've always been appreciative of his friendship and his support. And the moment he made this race, I was like, I definitely want to go. But it's always in May, and I married into a very big family. And for years, there was always a graduation or two on the weekend of Tiger Claw. And so one year I was just like, all right, next year, I think I got a gap in the births of all the nieces and nephews. So I think next year's the year. I told Ethan, I'm like, I'm coming. He's like, if you come out here, I got a bib for you. And so last year was the year where I did have a gap. And then it turned out, of course, that then one of the nieces ended up graduating a year early. But I told my wife, I'm like, I already told this guy that I'm going to go out to this race. I've been trying to go for like since the race started. She's like, well, this is technically her second graduate. She's getting her master's. So I was like, can I not go to this one?
No,
she's like, yeah, you're good. You're good. I was like, okay. So that was the year that I didn't go. And so, but I was able to go last year. And so that's why I went to that one. And so I'm training for this race and thinking, I'm knowing that it's hilly. I know you go up the mountain, and then he's got a very unique kind of choose your own adventure format, which I thought was super interesting. So I'm training for it. And then like a week before the race, like, you know, he posts something saying that like, you know, so excited for one of the most difficult 50Ks in the country. And I was like, wait, the most difficult? I thought it would be hilly, but I was like, I had no idea. I'm not ready. So like, I guess I'm signed up. So I guess I'll go anyway. And so it was hard. It kicked my butt for sure.
That sounds like a trap for sure.
I thought you did great. I've done the race, and I thought you did great. I was really impressed actually, because you can't really do a 2,000-foot climb in your backyard personally. Like, there's no way of training for it. So I don't know.
Yeah, it was unrelenting. And then it got really hot at the top of the peak. And I wasn't ready for really any of that. So I struggled quite a bit, but I was able to finish, and that was my main goal for it, was to just be able to finish the race. And I think kudos to Ethan for not talking up the difficulty of the race until people already had flights booked. So I feel like he's a marketing genius, and I feel like that was a really well played move on his part.
Sandbag is what that is. Yeah.
Marketing hype, sandbag, who's to
Yeah.
say? Sandbagging is really in the eye of the beholder.
It is, right? Yeah.
For a road runner, I feel like you really have the spirit and the soul of a trail runner, and you're often balancing joy and a bit of real talk. And I'm curious, like, what keeps you sort of grounded and optimistic in running, particularly seeing this like larger cultural shift towards like optimization and like hyperfixation on these marginal gains?
Yeah, I think what I always try to come back to is that I did run cross country in high school, and the long distance kids were the weirdos, in the best kind of way. And I feel like we really need to remember that most of us that are, well, I mean, maybe not most of us, but a lot of us that are here did run at some point in high school, and we probably did so because we were a weirdo in some sense. So I just want to bring all that back and remind us that, like, as serious as we may all be, as hardcore as the equipment is that we're buying and the way that we're tackling our nutrition and sleep scores and all this other stuff, this is a sport of weirdos for weirdos, And so I like just to remember that. I'm a goofy guy, end up chatting quite a bit on the long run. I like people that like to chat on the long run, so that's kind of me, that's where you make your friends in high school. I don't know how else to make friends if you're not on a run really anymore. And so that's, I think, something that we should always try to just remember, even if we're chasing big, crazy goals, is that, we're all just kind of goofballs and just figuring it all out together. It's okay to take things seriously, but just not too seriously, I guess.
How do you balance that approach between seriously and not too seriously as someone who like does want to like get faster and run a BQ, but also like have fun and enjoy the process too? Like, what is that? Like, what are the conversations you're having with yourself navigating that?
I think for me, in a lot of those is that, everyone's trying to like eke out, and I'm not the only one to have come up with this, and I'm probably regurgitating something that everyone's already heard, probably even today, is that like everyone's trying to get that last like 4 to 3% of performance when we're probably not doing the bulk of the 90% of the stuff right, And it always reminds me of something that something Coach James McCurdy said one time, where he was on a podcast with Matt Chittum, and he was like, you're not so special. And I was like, that's not a very nice thing to say. But he goes, you're not so special that training plans that have worked for thousands of other runners can't work for you. You're not so special that like all these things that are kind of like well-known, accepted training principles can't work well for you. You might have to find some of the right tweaks in terms of exactly how to get the most out of your body. Some people respond more to a lot of long, slow distance. Some people like a lot of short, fast speed work. Figure some of those stuff out. But like, basically, like, if you put in time, if you're consistent, you will get better, and you can get the most out of yourself. And it's not about finding the eureka, like I've cracked the formula for each person. It's just a lot of showing up, which again comes back to like goofy high school cross country days. Like I tell people all the time that like, running accepted me before I really accepted running, but it was a place that would take me. And runners were the people that accepted me back when I feel like no one else really did, back in, early younger days in high school. And so I now have, in my adult years, have started to actually love the act of running and not just the running community. So I love it. And I try to remember, like, I don't have to discover something new in order to get the most amount of myself. I just keep doing the thing that I'm loving and maintain a healthy relationship so that I keep loving doing it. And that's how I'm going to get the most out of myself.
You touched on this a little bit before. We've talked a lot about shoe reviews, which I've, not to be a jerk, but I've never watched one of your shoe review videos. I think the first time I ever saw your stuff was you put together this clip or this video from the New York City Marathon in 2021. And it was like shots from the sidewalk, but you were like, in my mind, sprinting down the sidewalk with a camera. And I'm like, how is this guy not hitting people? This is amazing. But through this, I like watch your other videos where it's like you're running races. Some of them are these group runs that you do. Can you speak a little bit about the community aspect and how it's changed for you because people are fans of your work now, and have what it's like to have people show up in some random city just to run with you and hang out for an hour? And is that exhausting or like really energizing?
I'm pretty much a very big introvert, and so a lot of times it is very exhausting, but in a good way, kind of like a dog that played fetch all day kind of way. Like I'm exhausted, but like for the best reasons. To be able to run with people who are of fans of the channel, I think is such a privilege, and I feel like it's really quite not a burden, but it is a big responsibility. I think that like when people come internationally, for example, to a race and they're like, all right, I'm going to Chicago. I want to eat the pizza. I'm going to go to the expo. I'm going to run the race and I want to go to the shakeout run. Like that's like the list of things that they want to do. And then like, and maybe I'll do like the architecture tour on the boat, maybe we'll do something, maybe we'll go to a baseball game, whatever it is, like they'll try to figure out like what are the other things that we can do. But I'm on the list, and so like that is to me like something that I hold very dearly because I'm like, wow, I want you to have a good time, and I'm glad that we get to meet and spend time together. So like those moments are very important to me, and I try to make sure that like when we do them, that we're making sure that everyone feels welcome and that everyone is safe on the run, that we don't lose anybody. That's a very big goal for me, and that we can all just have memories and have at least grab a selfie if nothing else, and so that's something that's really cool that I get to do, and I feel like it's an example of ties back to like runner nerds or runner dorks getting together, but also like the way that I think the internet is at its best is when it can bring people in online communities to have community in real life, and so like these, I feel like most of the people that come to the Kofuzi Run Club shakeouts are people that like they're probably not surrounded by other runners at home, and so like when they don't have the chance to like nerd out and talk about shoes for a solid 20-30 minutes straight with the people that they interact with most frequently. But online, that's their time to have that moment to engage in that passion. And then once a year, hopefully, or maybe even less frequently than that, they get a chance to do that in person with other people that they know from the comments or from the chat, and so like they're getting to take those online internet relationships and turn them into real ones. That to me, I think is like the best part of the community is when it can turn into real friendships. I hear about people that are going on runs together, that are meeting up, without me there, and doing things without me there. I think that's just so amazing.
I have one like totally unrelated question, but do you have
get in there, Brendan? Yeah.
What is your deep dish recommendation or what's your pick?
Yeah. So, I mean, number one, like in Chicago, most people don't eat deep dish unless they have someone visiting from out of town. It's not usually people's first pick, but I would say the one that we do most often is Giordano's. Because that one is like the biggest. It's like the most caricatured of the deep dish. When you think deep dish, you're thinking about Giordano's. But the ones when we do eat deep dish, I mean, so we do eat it sometimes. But like when we do eat it at home, we usually pick Lou Malnati's. I have a peanut allergy in the house. And so the research that we've done is Lou Malnati's is just a little bit allergy friendlier than Giordano's. And so that's the one we end up going with more often. So.
Okay.
There's a whole other peanut allergy community that exists on the internet, and my wife is very involved there. And so that's the consensus over there, is that Lou Malnati's is better for that. So
I bet the subreddit for peanut allergy Chicago deep dish is a really vibrant community to be a part of.
It very well may be. There's actually a lot of allergy and immunity research that happens in Chicago at Children's Hospital, and so
That's
we're very
awesome.
lucky. So we're very lucky for that.
I'm curious how sort of having both this online community and then sort of having this ways that you engage with and meet people out in the real world. I'm curious how that's shaped your perspective of the running community at large.
Yeah, it makes me appreciate running community and run clubs, and it makes me very kind of not enthusiastic about the blowback on the popularity of running clubs. And so like running clubs exploded during the pandemic a little bit, to the extent that people could get together, but especially right after the pandemic, running clubs became exceedingly popular. And for a lot of different reasons, because there were a lot of different kinds of run clubs that serviced different kinds of needs in the community, and running was one way that people could meet, and so I see those, and I think that's great. Some are very like performance oriented, some are like, all right, let's do some training, some are like, let's get through this couch to 5K together, some are just social, which that's not something new. Social running clubs have existed for a very long time. But like I see the purpose that those clubs serve. And so when people are like, let's make running clubs about running again, I'm that's a pretty jaded way of looking at the world. And I feel like, that's cool if that's how you feel about it, but like no one's asking you to go to any of those events or interact with any of that on social media.
They're not running through your house.
Yeah. And so
I don't want to brag, but I could probably go a whole day without having to interact with the run club should I choose not to.
Exactly. And so like, I just feel like there's a lot of people that are mad that things exist in the world that they don't need to be concerned about. And I feel like with the benefit that I've seen from in-person running communities, like it just makes me really annoyed when people are like, it's not really about running, is it? I'm like, it isn't. And that's the great part of it. Running is what brings people together, but it's about the getting together. That's important. Like some people, it's the running about the running, that's cool. But that's not the only way to do running community. And so that's how I love to see all the different ways where running clubs are starting.
I have one very serious question left, Zoe. How many times have you been mistaken for Steve Aoki?
Yeah, well, since like they grew the hair out and the facial hair, it's becoming more frequent. My hairline is also receding and it's matching Steve Aoki. So then it happens even more. It happens when I'm abroad more often, because Steve Aoki is more famous, probably outside the US than he is in the US. And so there it happens quite a bit. Yeah. When I had shorter hair, I would get Billy Yang quite a bit, which I take as a compliment because he's a gorgeous man. But now that my hair is much longer, I don't get Billy Yang anymore. I get Steve Aoki.
Can you talk about one of those interactions?
So one time, this is a story that I used to let my friend Thomas tell because he loves telling the story. But we were in Paris for the Olympics, and I think it was the night after the men's marathon. We had all decided we were going to go out, and we ended up in this, I don't know what to call it. It was in the basement. It was very dark, and there were lots of drinks. But there wasn't a dance floor, so we're all kind of sitting around in this basement somewhere, and it's pretty dark. And there's a large group of us, but then there's another group of people that keep kind of like, walking by, like kind of like eyeing us, looking at us. And I'm just like, well, I mean, a group of Americans isn't that unusual in Paris. I don't know what's going on. Eventually, one of them kind of sheepishly comes over and talks to my friend Thomas, and he whispers something into his ear, and Thomas starts, laughing his head off. And I'm like, what did he say to you? He goes, he wants to know if you're Steve Aoki, and that's why we're all here. Because he thought like this was my entourage, and that I was, I don't know, in between sets or something like that. And so that was like the weirdest one, to have that like in a basement in some sort of weird club in Paris, for that to happen. And then it happened most recently. I was just at the airport in Frankfurt, and waiting in line to board a plane. And I'm like, I don't know if Steve Aoki has private jet kind of money, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure he's not boarding Group 3 on this Lufthansa flight. But
just like to travel under the radar.
Yeah, but it's flattering that you asked me about that. So, and he was like, the funny thing is about the second one, he's like, are you Steve Aoki? And I'm like, sorry, no, I do get that a lot, but I'm not. He goes, are you sure? And I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. It's not me. That's not me.
Ask one more time though.
Yeah. Are you a fan of Steve Aoki, or was this just like a...
I enjoy the music. I love his stage presence. People have been suggesting that I start bringing cakes to the ShakeOut.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, maybe I'll bring cakes as like the carb loading treat one time. But I really don't think anyone wants me to throw cake in their face. But then what happened was, I forget what event it was. It was a Diamond League event or something like that. Steve Aoki was there, and he caked Noah Lyles. and someone else. I forget who the other one was.
Wait, so Steve Aoki throws cake at people
Launches
attending
a
his.
Yes.
Yeah, like a giant sheet cake, like the
There's
kind that
like-
you get like a Costco cake,
There's some great
Wow.
videos of this.
and he just
happening,
launches
like,
it into the audience.
people on somebody's shoulders and like this cake just flying in slow motion and just destroying.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
He's
like
got
it's-
pretty good aim.
That is
He's been
pretty
doing it for a
awesome.
long time. But he already did cake Noah Lyles. I'm pretty sure I just saw that happen like a couple of weeks ago. And
That's
so
amazing.
I'm like, well, there goes my pitch to collab with Grand Slam Track. I don't know what I got left. You know,
Well,
I was gonna be like, will you let me throw cake at people? I think it'd be kind of fun. But they already got the real guy to do it. So okay.
what if you
I have
did
to
it
think of
to
something
Steve
else.
Aoki, actually?
Well,
To
that would-
each other, it'd be like this Matrix thing.
That would be kind of funny.
How hard do
know,
you think it is to get a sheet cake through security?
Yeah. I don't know.
It can be done.
I feel like if this was a situation, I could just be like, if I brought the cake, I don't know, maybe people would just let me go. Be like, oh, okay, he must be with Steve. He's bringing a cake. So maybe that's something that could easily happen. I don't know.
I'm Steve's brother, Mike. I
Yeah,
bring the cake.
yeah. I mean, the thing is, Steve Aoki does have a connection to the running world too. I don't know if you guys remember, but
Oh, that's right.
there
He's
was
been running some marathons, right?
I don't know if he's been running marathons, but there was a Steve
No, I'm
Aoki
thinking
A6.
Diplo.
Oh, yeah, Diplo's been running.
Yeah.
Diplo's been running Diplo's Run Club. That's also very cool. Very different than the kind of run clubs that I do, but I'm like, dude, he's connecting with people with running and music. People are getting together and they're doing
Yeah.
something, moving their bodies. That's awesome. But Steve Aoki did have a collab shoe with ASICS years ago. And so like there is a Steve Aoki shoe out there. I almost bought it to try and review it, but then people were like, it's not really a running shoe. So I was like, okay, maybe I won't review it. But now I really regret that I don't have it. Because
It's probably on StockX.
I've no, it is not. I looked for it recently and it wasn't
Okay.
there.
Wow.
But yeah.
I mean, even the Back to the Future shoe is on StockX, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
You can also you can find the shoes from Heaven's Gate on StockX and eBay. The Nikes that they
Oh.
discontinued because of Heaven's
Mhm,
Gate.
mhm.
I would pay to see a review of that. On that note, I'm curious, what is
Yeah.
the silliest shoe you've ever reviewed? Because I feel like shoes have been going in some very wild directions as of late. Heaven's Gate jokes aside, I'm curious if there's anything you were like, wow, this is silly.
Yeah, I mean, I think like there's stuff that's kind of out there. And so like the really tall shoes that might have more than one carbon plate. So like the Adidas Prime X 2 Strung, it's 50 millimeters of stack height, double carbon plates. Puma had one, the Fast RB. RB stands for Rule Breaker. That had kind of like it was like a triple decker sandwich, like a club sandwich of foam. That was pretty fun to review.
That was the one that was like intentionally like, don't wear this, like competition, illegal,
Yeah,
way too much stack. Don't even try.
I mean, it's like rule breaking as a feature, for the shoes. And so those are fun. But then it's always kind of like you're fighting the comments of like, guys, it has rule breaker in the name. Like, relax. They're not trying to cheat. It's just it's all part of like can we build this? What is it like if we do? It's like I'm not suggesting that people. I mean, and I'm like, and if you're a normal person, run in the shoe if you want to run in the shoe. It's absolutely fine. Like they're not going to DQ you. If you don't have to submit your shoes for equipment check before the race, you're likely not going to be DQ'd for whatever shoe you ran in during the race. So there's a lot of that I have to like re-explain every time. I think what is funny is that brands will sometimes send me some of their like casual wear and streetwear stuff. And so some of that gets pretty funny. A lot of the stuff from Decker's Lab is just out there. Because I just feel like that's their Homer Cakes section where they just let them do anything that they want. And so that's always kind of fun. But I'm also like, I don't know how to review this. Like running shoe, the action shot is you run in it. Like some of these like casual shoes, some of these like experimental shoes, like what's the action shot? Like me walking around the mall? Like I don't know. How do I depict myself enjoying this?
Tony Montana at the beginning of Saturday Night Fever carrying the paint can, that walk.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
how
I
you
guess
do
so.
it.
I guess so. Like my wife did just buy one of those like walking treadmills. So for her stand-up desk situation.
Nice.
But I'm like,
Oh yeah.
I saw that. I'm like, can I borrow that? And she's like, "Oh, yes, you can use it whenever you like. Here's the remote." I'm like, "No, I'm going to take this downstairs by the set and I'm going to do like a walking montage in it. Can I do that?" And like, "This is how I'm going to review apparel." She's like, if you want. Okay.
I just realized I said Tony Montana instead of Tony Monero, which is really...
You got your Tonys mixed up, Brendan.
I know. Sorry. But
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us and talking all things trail, road, shoes, YouTube. It's been a real blast.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm always happy to talk about shoes and nerd out so that way I can spare my wife from some of this.
Someone's got to do it.